on fast cars.
Hello, ladies.
This is Women Take the Wheel.
Sit down, strap in, and turn on all you've got.
Nikki Clark is taking you behind the scenes.
You're ready to win. Let me tell you, these cars, they get up and go pretty good.
Introducing you to women drivers, crew members, and fans of the racing world. Plus, Nikki is bringing you the latest racing news in Indiana and beyond.
We're going to bring it to you from the tower as they get ready to pull into the beam.
From the All Indiana Podcast Network.
All right, strap yourselves in.
Woo! Getting off the track and in your ears. This is Women Take the Wheel.
Come on, baby.
With your host,
Here we go.
Nikki Clark.
Hi, I'm Nikki Clark, your host for Women Take the Wheel podcast here on the All Indiana Podcast Network. And today I have Top Fuel driver Jasmine Salinas in the studio. As the 2026 NHRA season gets underway, Jasmine is making some pretty big announcements about her program this week. On this episode, she talks about her schedule for 2026 and one race she is definitely competing at. We also talk about the documentary Chasing Speed, and Jasmine describes what it was like to have cameras capture everything that goes on at the races. And of course, we get into what it's like to compete at races alongside her sister Gianna. Stay tuned.
Your day moves fast. Your news should too. That's why there's a new and improved Wish TV app bringing you more local news, breaking alerts, live streaming, weather forecasts, radar, and Indiana sports all in one place. Customize your news feed to see the stories that matter most to you and get the information you need when you need it. Download the new and improved Wish TV app today on iOS or Android and take News 8 with you everywhere.
So welcome to Women Take the Wheel, and I have with me today Jasmine Salinas.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Good. I'm fine. I'm glad that we finally got to do this. We have been talking about trying to do this for so long.
I know. I'm like, come on, next time you're, and it worked out because then you're on Lifestyle Life today, which is just down the hall. So I appreciate that. And then for people who've never seen the show, Top Fuel dragster driver, and you've done many. You started out. You've been doing this forever and ever with your family. I remember first meeting you when your dad had that cool orange car.
Yeah.
The orange car with the flame, and you were strapped him in. How old were you when he first started doing Top Fuel?
I remember when he got his Top Fuel license. I was a senior in high school, and I remember the day he called me. He was in Texas at the Texas Motorplex, got his license, and school had just ended. And well, actually, I think we were like 30 minutes before school ended, and I got a phone call, so I like snuck away. And I remember being on the phone, and he's like, "I got my Top Fuel license," and I remember like we were both crying. We were so excited. So gosh, I think I was like 18 years old, and then the following year, that's when he made his debut in Top Fuel in 2011. So it's been such a journey, and it's so wild to try to like think about the timeline of where we started and the journey of, he wanted to do professionally, but we were like, oh, that's just something, maybe I'll try it out. We never in a million years thought that, I would be here today. My sister would be here racing, per stock motorcycle. So it's been such a whirlwind of a journey.
Yeah, because I remember, because you started off, your dad actually started off with Ford Sports Marketing, which I used to be at. And so my boss, Ryan, was like, hey, can you write a press release on this guy? I remember reading about you guys and how cool. I'm like, it's his whole family. He's his girl dad, and they all race.
Yep.
So, like, when did you start in a car?
So I started when I was 14 years old. I think like 13 or 14 years old, in the junior dragster series. And I feel like when you, hear other racers talking, they're like, they're like, I started when I was like 8 or 6, and I was like, so I kind of feel old starting at 14.
Ooh, so old.
Yeah, but it's so funny because myself and my 3 younger sisters, we all started racing together, and I remember the first time we had the car and we brought it out to the racetrack, and it's really funny. I haven't really told a lot of people this, but it's like my dad asked, he's like, asked me and then the sister in between Gianna and I, Jackie, she's a year and a half younger than me, and he's like, okay, which one of you wants to go first? And I remember I was so afraid. I let her go first. I was like,
really?
You go first. Yeah, and I was so afraid to get in the car, and then once I watched my sister go down the track first, I was like, okay, like she can do it, I can do it. And like that's kind of always been like a funny little like motto, like in a good way, where like I think Gianna and I have always used, like, you know, if there's something like if we can do it, like other people can do it. Not to take away, you know, from the fact that, you know, it isn't the easiest thing to do, and it's not that, you know, not anybody can just jump in. But I think I always think back to that moment of like watching somebody else, like my sister who was younger, you know, and watching her jump in the car. I was like, okay, like if she can do it, like I can do it.
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah. I everybody's like, oh, did you drive? I'm like, oh no. But back in the day, because I'm old, they didn't have junior dragsters, and then when they did, I'm like, yeah. And honestly, I'm not a driver. And the golf cart, I'm kind of a menace. And the guys have seen me on my scooter even. They had bets going on whether I would crash my electric scooter. I have not. I've dumped it, but I haven't hurt myself, so I don't think that counts.
That's good.
So I'm like, yeah. So you're making a big announcement this week. We now know a little bit more what you're doing this season. So tell us about that. Yay.
So we have we haven't finalized our schedule yet. We have an idea of which races we want to do, but I will be returning, you know, to the seat this year. We have a lot more races added to our schedule, and one of them is the U.S. Nationals in Indy this year, so I'm really excited about. We do have some crew chief announcements that we're making next week, I think.
Oh, yes,
so
exciting.
We're pretty excited about it. It's something I think we've been staying quiet, you know, and I think so a lot of people are just assuming we just disappeared or went away.
No.
But we're just, you know, staying really busy working behind the scenes, trying to make sure that we have everything right before we make any large announcements. So I am very excited to be able to share, you know, the news next week with you guys about who we're going to have working with us. We have some really great group of fly-in guys that we utilized last year, really veteran and seasoned group of guys. So I think we're actually very lucky because there's so many new teams coming out this year. And with that, there's actually been a real scarcity of, you know, finding crew guys this year. And so you've kind of seen a lot of struggle with the teams trying to piece together. And we're kind of fortunate in the sense that since we aren't, you know, racing full time at the moment, we've got a really badass group of guys, you know.
Well, and see, that's the thing people forget is some of these crew guys are so good, but they have other jobs, and so it gives them a chance to get out the track. And there are some good ones out there that are just part timers. I'm like, never count them out.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm pretty excited, and I think another thing we kind of noticed last year. When I was racing part-time and we had the flying group was something that was interesting to see. The difference was when you are racing on the road 20 weeks, you know, throughout the season, plus all the, you know, the travel and then all of the testing in between, the guys get worn out. The guys get worn out. And you can kind of tell, like, right when you're getting up to the U.S. Nationals, like, the teams... certain teams kind of just can keep going and other teams just kind of really start dropping off. And I think as far as, like, the energy goes, and, like, I don't blame them. You know, I see that, and I think you see it in drivers, too. And it's really cool to kind of like have, you know, this part-time group where like every single weekend they were refreshed every single weekend. And so even though we only did 6 races last year, and I think 2 of those 6 we utilized some fly-in guys, like I think still going into this next season or this upcoming season, we're hoping to do about 12 to 14 races this year. And I'm really excited about it. And the group that we have, we can rotate them out, and so we know, you know, nobody's going to get tired. We can work on everyone's race or working schedules outside of racing. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Well, you're pointing out too is like the crew guys. People forget because unlike the other motorsports, these guys also drive the rig, some of them, and work on the car. And like one team, they were talking about how they're going to for sure do the IHRA Triple Crown. That's 7 weeks in a row with their NHRA schedule.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's great, especially with the IHRA schedule coming out. We are planning to add some of those as well to our schedule.
Good.
So yeah, it's.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, we're definitely going to come out and do the Triple Crown races. We're really excited about that. Add a little more. I'm really excited that both NHRA and IHRA are existing, you know, right now together, especially for people like myself who has now transitioned to a part-time driver, a part-time team where we are looking for funding to go race full-time. It creates these opportunities for other drivers, you know, that are still looking for the funding to come out and race full-time. And I think it's a really great opportunity that they can coexist together. I think it's going to be really great and provide more driving abilities for people.
100% too, because like the smaller teams, and this year we're going to go a little bit ways, but last year it seemed like lots of the races, IHRA racers, were close by, so they didn't have to spend the flights and the, you know, the multiple hotel stays. It's 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
And I think that's another reason, like I talked to one of my friends who's a crew chief, that's why he's like, oh my God, the IHRA races it's this day to this day. I don't have to be there for a week. And so.
Yeah, it's for as far as looking like the cost wise of it for the teams, I mean, you're pretty much splitting it in half for what it costs you to go out to an NHRA race. So that alone, I think it's a really incredible stepping stone for a lot of teams where you do see them come out to some of the NHRA races and maybe they're struggling with just trying to qualify versus I know going out to the IHRA races, you know that they'll be able to qualify, you know that they'll be able to get some money and they'll be able to go rounds. And I think it's a really great intro. The pace of it is a little different than NHRA. At the moment, they don't have a live TV package, IHRA, so the schedule is a lot more slower and relaxed, which I think is really great for people that are stepping in and very new. I know for me, that was the biggest change when people asked, what was it like going from A fuel to top fuel? And I said my biggest thing was like, besides the speed of the cars, besides that, it was really just the program and the schedule of running professionally. In A fuel, we're used to, everything ran very slow, it was really relaxed and really chill. And then, you kind of got pushed around.
I was going to say, and you got pushed back. And back.
Yep. And then when you're racing top fuel, and realistically the nitro classes, those are the ones that get prioritized. So everybody gets pushed around to prioritize you. And so your schedule, you're just go, go, go. And I think between, all the appearances and then all of the stage production that they have, it's really fast paced. And I think the turnaround time, if you don't have a really seasoned team, that's a really hard schedule. And so I think what is really awesome is that IHRA can provide a really competitive space and safe space for people to go compete, win some really good money, and then, be able to learn and get their program up to speed and learn in a really good safe space.
And I wanted to go back really quick because, like I said, you did, do A fuel first in Nigeria. I want to talk about because this is where you earned your badassum, whatever you were there in my book. This is where you earned it. You in Gainesville had a massive crash, like one of the ones like your car just like went whoop, and you handled that like a boss. I mean, what was that like? I mean,
I always say that I'm very grateful that that happened so early in my career. That was when I had that crash. That was 100% driver error mixed with just bad timing. And I think that's a lot of times what crashes are is just a mix of bad luck, bad timing, perfect conditions, perfect storm, and then sometimes driver error, sometimes not. And for me, I think having that happen so early on, I really believe that it gave me a really deep respect for the cars. You always have to have respect for the cars, but I think when you do experience a crash or something like that, it really, really makes the realities and gravity of what we're doing even more apparent to you. And so I think carrying that with me throughout the rest of my career, so far, I like to think that it's really helped me be more thoughtful and conscious of things. But it was such a wild experience. I remember just driving, during my car, I tried to pedal it. And next thing I knew, I just saw blue. And then the next thing I know, and I was like, once I saw blue, I was like, oh crap. So I remember, and that race car, it was such a big car. And so the cockpit was so big. So I was able to wrap my arms up and then pull my knees up. And everything just happened in slow motion, which is like another really weird sensation that you always hear people talking about when something happens. And then the next thing I knew, I'm flipping over the wall, and then I just see dirt, and I'm rolling. I was like, okay, I know I'm rolling. I'm seeing mud. I was like, okay, I think I was trying to figure out where I was at, and I just remember my biggest concern was just making sure that I didn't hurt anybody around me or anybody in the other lane. And then, I was able to get out of the car under my own power. They recommended I go to the hospital. And it was funny because I remember that they had called the hospital and give them a heads up and said that, hey, we just had somebody crash over 200 miles an hour, be prepared. And so they were ready with a whole trauma unit, prepped. And then I come out, and I had a neck brace on because I was I think just for safety reasons, but I was fine. And then they just see me roll out. I was like, hey guys. And they're like, is this the right driver? And I was like, no, it's me. Yeah. So I just had some internal bruising for a bit. But other than that, it was, I think, if anything, which I feel is very similar, very mental. And the mental aspect of it, I think, is another thing that I'm really appreciative of, because I think I really got to see what I was capable of. My parents, we had a long talk after we got back home, and after I was out of the hospital, and they said, if you don't want to race anymore, we totally understand. Nobody would judge you. There's a bunch of grown men who are calling and be like, hey, I wouldn't get back in a race car if that happened to me. And I remember the moment that it happened, and I got out of my race car and I looked up and I looked around and I saw where I was mad, and I was cussing and I was yelling, and I was so upset because I was like, that's not the best version of me. I know I'm capable of better, and I need to show everybody that I'm capable of better. And that really motivated me to want to get back in the race car despite all my fears and anxieties of it again, and really push forward and show people that I could, I was better than what I had just shown everybody. And I like to think that I've been, since then, hopefully, shown I'm a pretty decent driver, I guess.
Yeah. Well, didn't you? If I'm blanking right now, but didn't you come back and win the race next year?
I did the following year. So that was my first national event win. So I think just that whole moment, the timing of it, just the fact that it was the same track, the same different lane, but it was just so incredible. And we ended up having. The following year, I was running against Julie Natas, and so the race got rained out. So her and I were like the only people on Monday, at the racetrack, just trying to finish our race. And the track was like crappy for both of us. So I think we both had to pedal it, but it was just really awesome and exciting, and just funny how life works.
That is crazy. Okay, and so now we're going to move up to current time. Yep. There's a great new docuseries, if you have not watched it, on Vice TV called Chasing Speed. And you are front and center last week and part of this week too. To me, you had to open up so much to them. And I know you're kind of timid person, and having them follow you. What was that like, having to be on camera like that so much?
Yeah, I'm a very reserved person.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people can tell. And I think it takes a lot for me to feel comfortable getting to share and open up to people. But I think, like I said, timing wise, I think it was a very therapeutic experience. We were struggling, we had been hearing back from some of the sponsorship that we were supposed to have, and it wasn't looking like it was good. And so at the beginning of the season, I was going into every single race with this feeling in the back of our head and this thought that this might be my last race. And that was something that we had to kind of keep to ourselves for as long as we could. Yeah. And that was a lot of weight to carry on. And so honestly, kind of having this crew follow me and just ask these really, really great questions that kind of just also helped me reflect on my time and my experience in lifetime was really, really therapeutic for me. I think especially coming from my rookie season, which was an equally emotional experience for me. And I felt like that I really felt like I went through that season kind of a lot on my own and had to process a lot on my own. So for me, at least, having a film crew there where they were kind of almost capturing these moments where a lot of times I was God, I wish people could just see this side or see something that I was struggling with, because I know other drivers are going through this, but nobody talks about it and nobody shares it. And I'm I can't be the only one struggling with this and crying and having these moments. And you hear it from other drivers, but nobody wants to share that. And for me, I felt it could be a great opportunity where it's just if that's how I'm feeling, if I'm crying or I'm having a bad day, just let it out, because I think I was just so tired of just trying to put on a good face, a strong face for everybody during my rookie season. And I was like, I'm just going to let it all out. This is me. This is who I am. And so far, I think the feedback from everybody's been really appreciative and great for the vulnerability. It is something that I will say I was definitely nervous about and anxious about as I knew that this was getting closer to airing. I was like, what did they capture? What are they going to show? Because there were some other really personal moments that they did capture, and I'm not sure if they made it into the show yet. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Some really highs, some really lows moments for me, and I think, but that's what people want to see. I think, it's, I like to think is, I remember watching all these drivers before my dad even started racing and looking at, the Antron Browns, the Steve Torrances, the Tony Schumachers, the Brittany Force, and Leah Pruitt, and all these, really incredible drivers. And I was like, they're these larger than life people. And then I've been very fortunate to get to know them through my dad racing, and then now they're my competitors. And I've slowly been having these little aha moments of these are just people. These are just people, and I've been fortunate to have these shared moments with them where they show their humanity and I'm able to show it back with them, and it kind of level sets you back to hey, we're all just humans jumping in race cars trying to chase something that we love. And so I don't know, I just think being able to have the docuseries capture so many moments of like that with myself, but so many other drivers as well, I think is really going to show another side for fans and people who aren't fans yet of NHRA drag racing to be able to connect with us. I think the cars have always kind of been pushed as like, this is the big show. And it's like, to be honest, like, yeah, going 330 miles an hour is great, but it's like, but what about the person that's experiencing that? And I'm so glad that they did this docuseries and that they're able to showcase the human side to it.
Me too. Well, and I was worried when they said they're doing this docuseries, whatever. I'm like, I don't know if it's going to work because so much when you see top end interviews and that, everybody's all tried to put on that nice guy image. And it's like, I don't want to be the bad guy, whatever. And I'm just like, I love like you and like LinkedIn people who are just who are just honest at the end. They don't miss words. They're just like, nope, this is how I feel. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. And I think it was a collective group. I mean, not everybody got together and talked about it, but I feel like it was still like a collective somehow like group buy-in of like, okay, like if the whole point of this is to like follow you around and be present for those vulnerable moments, you know, they're doing that for other people. And so I think allowing everybody to enter that vulnerable space where maybe you're like showing up as your best and you're a little messy that day and you know, probably you don't want the whole world to see it, but you're going to allow people to see it anyways. I think that's appreciative for all the other people on the show that allowed, you know, themselves to also be vulnerable and be seen by others. Because I think to be seen by others as yourself is like probably the most scariest thing. But then it's like, we also got to go 330 miles an hour race car. So if we can do that, we can also, I think, in, you know, the right moments and having the right group and the right production team that, you know and trust will make you look good. I think it allows you to kind of bring that out.
And I'll say Lauren Adams, she's one of the people, and we all love Lauren, so it's easy.
Exactly.
It was easy. Oh, Lauren's doing it? Okay, we can be totally honest. It's with her. I just adore her.
Oh, she's great. She's great. And I think like she brings out the best, I think, in a lot of people around her.
Yeah. And so, like I said, and, you know, do you feel any pressure? Because you're kind of like the face of women in the NHRA. I mean, because you were at the conference with Ida, you know, I ran into you at PRI, and like, is it a lot to be like kind of like the face of NHRA? Is that a lot of pressure for you, or?
I don't know. I think it's I don't know. I guess I don't really look at myself as the face. I look at it as kind of like a collective, like shared responsibility between, you know, all the other women in the sport, honestly. And I think we all have our moments where we do come out and can represent the sport and do it in our own way. It's been really exciting. I know Ida and I, Maddie Gordon's been coming out a lot, and we've been doing a lot of appearances representing NHRA, and that's been really exciting. I think it's been really cool. Ida's, I think, really strong point is like doing, you know, the interviews and like doing all the talking. So like, I think I've been learning from her. She's been learning from me. And I think collectively, like we've built this little group of, you know, just supporting each other and kind of realizing it, you know, it's hard and it's honestly kind of awkward because at the end of the day, we're all competing against each other on the track. We're all competing against each other off the track for sponsorship. But at the same time, we can still find a way to be supportive of each other and our journeys and recognize that we're all going to bring something different to the table. And we're all something that's very unique and special about us. And that's like, we can show up and have, you know, like what makes us unique, we can show up together. I feel like when I grew up and watched NHRA drag racing and there weren't as many women, I felt like there was always this narrative pushed of like the good girl next door versus the bad girl, and there was only two storylines that you could fall into place. And now I feel like because there's so many women, you know, competing more and more at the professional series as well as the sportsman series, but especially the professional series, is like there's so many different storylines that you can show up as yourself, and I really love that, and I'm really excited to see you know, Maddie Gordon come out and have her story shown. And I'm hoping that, you know, Ida gets some more racing this year. But yeah, there's so many incredible women, Juliana Toss, and I'm just really grateful to be able to be, you know, alongside of them representing NHRA.
And your sister. You guys are the only sister duo racing in the NHRA and the only sisters in professional level. How, I mean, it's got to be reassuring having your sister out there. I'm like, it'd be so like having like your family member there. It's just, that's got to be awesome. Yeah,
it was when my dad stepped out for his medical surgery, and I stepped in, and it was pretty much just Gianna and I all of 2024 and then most of 2025. My parents didn't come out. They came out for maybe one race in 24, maybe one race in 25, but it's really just been Gianna and I really leaning on each other a lot. I've been fortunate also to have my partner Adam Cave on the track with me. And
you can't see it, but he's in here.
He's here. He's social media today.
Yeah, he's behind me.
But yeah, it's having that family member there, which I think, you know, again, it's NHRA drag racing. There's so many family dynamics, and it's generational, and people also understand what it's like to have your family there, and they understand those days when your family is not there. And so I'm very fortunate to have Gianna with me there all the time, and we definitely lean on each other through the ups and downs.
Yeah, but it's also scary too because, you know, you had to watch her crash and she's watched you crash.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine that. And like, because they even had on Chasing Speed too with poor Andrea the other night with Sean's crash, and I'm like, I can't imagine what you go through.
Yeah,
it's watching your sister.
Yeah, it's something you never obviously ever want to see, and I you don't know, you hope it never happens again, but at the same time, it's, I think, also something we also both know we've accepted, is that it's never like if, but it's when.
Yeah.
And I think just knowing that my sister will always be at the track with me if something were to happen, same thing. I always know. I think I missed maybe like 2 of her races this year where she didn't have any family. And the whole time I was like sitting at home, I was like, I need to be there just in case something happens. Because, you know, it's your family and you want to be there for that person because you do remember those moments. So I think Gianna and I have both going through the experience of both having crashed and both having watched the people we love crash. It changes when you do watch other people like Sean's. And I remember we were standing up there by the TV camera when that happened and watching that. And it definitely, I'll admit, it makes me cry every single time because I put myself in the shoes of, I remember being, you know, that family member running down the track to go try to make sure your loved one's okay. And I also remember being the person in the race car, you know, watching your family run after you. And so it's definitely something that you don't like to see happen to other people. It is part of the sport, but I think it also brings people closer together because there are people out here, I think, where it's happened enough, unfortunately, and it's always going to be part of our sport where kind of everybody can lean on each other.
I won't say who it was, but one of the drivers, veteran driver, he had crashed 2 races in a row. And he got out. He was fine both times. But the second time, you know, his wife, you know, cried. Yeah. And she came to me. She's like, I'm so embarrassed I cried. I'm like, what? Yeah. I'm like, you just watched your husband crash. It's okay to show some emotion. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, my gosh. Yeah. And then I had somebody else, they crashed, and his daughter was really little, and I was worried. I'm like, oh, my God, are you okay? You know, your dad just crashed. She's like, oh, I saw him get in the ambulance. It's fine. And I'm like, how can you be like that? My heart would just be on the ground. So I'm like, now I have to look at my notes. Okay, so I'm like, I have my little notes. I'm like, okay, next week we're going to find out about your crew, which I'm so excited about. We talked about that, your family biz, your crash and came back. Something I was talking about earlier with you, and I have to thank you for, too, is that so I work with Della Penna Foundation, and we bring girls out to the racetrack and the racing events. This year was the first time we got to bring them to PRI, and they got to meet you and Gianna, and you guys were so gracious and stopped and talked to them. They just love that, and I have to thank you again because they're mostly IndyCar girls, and when I told them about you guys and how fast you go, and then your sister going that fast on a bike, their eyes were just like, what? I mean, what is it like when you talk to girls and you tell them like that and they just give you that look? Does that make you feel like warm and fuzzy inside?
Oh, absolutely. Because I remember being one of those girls. I remember being at, I think it was like Bakersfield or Sacramento Raceway, waiting in line before Leah Pruitt even ran. So Leah used to race with my dad. My dad used to race with her dad. So they raced alongside each other. So before I even saw the Force Girls, I saw Leah racing. And I remember waiting in line at this little like janky table. And I think she was like sponsored by like Race Girl. And I remember waiting in line, being one of those girls looking up to her, waiting for her autograph. So I remember all of that. And, for some people it's going to stick, for some people it's not. But I think if, have one of those moments with somebody and you could be that person, where they're going to reference you one day and be like, I remember they spent, 2 minutes talking to me and like sharing things with me. And I remember the people that did, I remember the people that didn't. And so those moments, I think I really value and try to be as present as possible as I can. Sometimes we get busy and it's really hard when you're on a race schedule, but I love being able to share that. And I'm also like the oldest sister of three younger sisters, and so it's like I think I'm always carrying with me this like older sister like mindset of like trying to guide and teach. And my parents always taught me since I was like little, they're like, okay, your younger sisters are looking up to you, and everything that you're doing, somebody's always watching you. So like, it's caused like a bit of maybe like anxiety for me for like most of my time growing up. But at the same time, I've always kind of thought about like anything that I'm doing, there's somebody watching, good or bad. And I think especially with like young women, just being able to spend that time, if they are interested in this and getting to hear their thoughts. And I know when I was like, I go 330 miles an hour, and I'm just like watching their brains trying to process, like, what does that even mean? And I was like, you guys just got to come out. You got to come out and watch a race.
Yeah, because they also met Ida, and she said that too, and they're STEM girls. And one girl's like, can you please explain the physics of this to us? And I'm like, that might take a little bit while. That might take a little while. But and I'm so excited because the girls will be in Sonoma, not the same ones, but we are bringing a group to the Sonoma races. So I'm hoping you're there. So I'm hoping you'll be there so you can talk to the girls. And like I said, I'm selfishly pushing the NHRA because, like I said, they're mostly IndyCar girls. But I'm like, wait. And I will confess to when, they know Graham Rahal. And I'm like, but did you know his wife goes faster and has more trophies? Just saying.
Yeah, see?
Just saying. So, okay, if we do want to follow your adventures this year, where can we find you on social media so everybody can follow your adventures this year?
Instagram is kind of the best place. I'm a big Instagram girl. I'm not so much with the TikTok. Not so much with the TikTok. I tried the TikTok. I'm so old now.
Yeah,
I tried the TikTok. So Instagram, we have our race team account. I think it's like Team Scrappers. Okay. Scrappers Racing is the team account. And then for my social media, it's Jasmine Salinas. The handle is JASSALINASS. I always have to think through that. But yeah, just come follow me. I'm going to be keeping all of, the live updates throughout the year. We're going to have some announcements, like I said, that I'll also be posting on on my social media. And I'm trying to do a lot more like behind the scenes stuff. I know everyone's like, they love the race cars, but they're like, what do you do on a Monday when like you're not at the track? And it's like, that's the most common thing. So I'm definitely hoping to lean in more to that and just show you guys kind of what it's like to be racing.
And you have really good social media because I'm not gonna lie, I critique, I'm picky about social media because I know it, and I'm just like, you actually sew stuff, you got the sound, you got the working sew, and you consistently do it. So that's why I'm like, oh, she's definitely going to follow.
Thank you.
So
I appreciate it.
Well, thank you again so much for coming in today, and I cannot wait to watch you race.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Thank you. Too. Thank you again to Jasmine for coming into the studio. And thank you again for listening. I'm Nikki Clark, and this is Women Take the Wheel. Be sure to connect and follow on Facebook when you search for Women Take the Wheel podcast. And be sure to follow and subscribe right now to this podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
From the All Indiana Podcast Network,
This is Women Take the Wheel.
with Nikki Clark. Follow and subscribe to this podcast now and discover even more great podcasts on the All Indiana Podcast Network. Online at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.
AllIndianaPodcastNetwork.com.